Universal basic income, as the words describe, is a basic income for all.
The payment is yours. It doesn't depend on your work history. It doesn't require you to demonstrate that you're searching for a job. It's unconditional.
Are we better off when we have more money or when we need it less?
I'm just a scientist, so that I don't know if I'm against or pro basic income.
We've been talking about whether a universal basic income should be the foundation for poverty reduction since the wake of the 2008-9 global financial crisis, where it became really obvious that economic growth had been accompanied by rising inequality, not falling inequality. So we had a number of pilot projects for basic income established around the world.
We have 3 different groups that are getting a basic income. One group is getting a monthly payment for 2 years. One is getting it for 12 years. And then one got the equivalent of the 2 year as a lump sum upfront. The idea was to kind of look at whether length of time matters, whether the tranching of it matters. We're giving 75 cents per person per day. So every individual, through their own phone, men and women, got it separately. So we are actually collecting a bunch of data around women's economic empowerment, how the woman's life changes in that family, given she has her own stream of income.
UBI is often viewed as the new foundation, and it may well be for some of the more poor countries in the world that don't have a very elaborate architecture of social welfare, but in places that do, the question is how best to build on that.
In Finland, we almost already have a basic income. Education is for free from kindergartens to up to the university level. We have universal pensions so that everybody is entitled to pension security. But the flip side of the coin is that because the level of the benefits is rather high, then it means that the threshold to take employment is rather high. The money was rather small, 560 euros. We did lots of micro-simulations when we were planning the Finnish experiment, and pretty soon we realized that the full basic income, that would be 1,500 euros or 2,000 euros, they would be extremely costly for the national economy.
Any form of redistribution, whether it's basic income or basic services, has to be funded by the taxpayer. And the most common taxpayer is the working person. Well, if you're going to ask people to spend more money, why don't you ask them to spend more money for something that they will get a piece of? Better health care, better child care, better housing.
In Canada, when we talk about a basic income, we do tend to talk about a guaranteed minimum income. That is a floor. And as your income increases, your entitlement declines until it eventually disappears. That kind of a program has much lower upfront costs. At the time in Canada, maternity leave was 4 weeks. Not surprisingly, some of them used the income stipend to buy themselves longer parental leaves. The data showed this huge reduction in the amount of work these boys were engaged in. But what that really meant was that instead of dropping out of school at age 16 and working on a farm or working in a factory, they stayed in school. Basic income costs, it certainly does. But an 8.5% reduction in hospitalization is not without monetary value. And you see similar kinds of returns in other areas, child and family services, for example.
When you're poor, you sometimes do low-risk things that also have a low reward. And the reason is you just want to make sure you have enough to feed your kids. The UBI can sort of help provide a protection on the downside risk side. You could imagine that if everybody goes and spends it on the basic food, which is maize, the prices of maize go up and then we're not better off. You could imagine there's lots of money in the community and crime goes up. You could imagine that the village elder comes to you and says, Tevni, you know that cash transfer you got from Give Directly? It's because of me. I'm the one who brought them to this village. You owe me some of it.
There are people who will take advantage of any system that's put in place. One of the advantages of a basic income is that it's not a complicated system. The fewer rules there are, the less opportunity there is to game the system. In 2017, the province of Ontario in Canada ran a basic income guarantee experiment. And there was a change in government again, and the new government decided to cancel the experiment. And it did put people in a very awkward position because many of them used the promise to sign leases for new apartments, to register in college. And then suddenly the money was stopped.
The main lesson from our experiment perhaps is that decent level of income is a necessary condition for good human life, but it's not sufficient.
If you know that you can have affordable housing and high quality childcare and access to mental health services, irrespective of your income, you are better off than if you have $10,000 more in your pocket. Because these things are very costly and you would never be able to pay for them all through any version of a universal basic income.
Is it feasible for a country to offer a basic income to all of its citizens? I think that's challenging, but it's certainly possible to imagine different ways of collecting money and spending money to ensure that everybody has a more equal opportunity to flourish in the society in which they live.